Welcome to vlog 90. Hey guys, so before I start talking, please watch this newscast of the depressing thing that happened in Connecticut a couple days ago.
These Connecticut parents had dropped off their kids for a typical Friday at school. Then about 9:30 in the morning, they received robocalls and text messages. Sandy Hook Elementary School was put on alert.
I just got a message saying from the superintendent that there was an unconfirmed shooting and that, everybody's in lockdown.
I was a little scared and I felt sick first.
A gunman was firing away as teachers went into lockdown and parents rushed to the scene. Inside, children were hiding as a gunman fired away.
They were crying in the closet, in the closet of the art room. And eventually, they were leaving, and when they were leaving, the police made them hold hands, and the police told them to close their eyes.
Told to keep their eyes closed because a gunman was on a killing spree, killing the principal, a counselor, child after child.
On and off-duty troopers responded to the school. That included checking every door, every crack, every crevice, every portion of that school.
Hi guys, so this is going to be a tiny bit scripted because I took a little bit of notes about the situation and things I wanted to say, but mostly, obviously, it's going to be my words and stuff like that. I am going to take a little bit of what I've seen from other vloggers, of what they've said in their vlogs, and I'm going to take a little bit of, obviously, what I want to say. Now, we all know what happened in Connecticut. There was a guy who pretty much, let's put it this way, lost his mind, and he shot at least 20-some children and his own mother and all kind of stuff. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty because stuff like that, like Virginia Tech happened and Columbine happened. And these things in the world keep happening, and it's all because gun control in the United States is just not regulated enough. And it really pisses me off when somebody, mental problems or not, is able to slide through an elementary school with children who are absolutely the most innocent things in the world, and this happens. Now, I'm going to mention again other vloggers, and I hope they don't mind that I've done this, but I'm giving them the credit that they've said things. Now, there is a vlogger called Your Hartle, and here's her annotation to the vlog that I'm talking about. In her vlog, she mentions that instead of, keeping to talk about, these things and yelling at each other about gun control and stuff like that, we should all contact our state representatives and contact them about mental diseases, giving money for those kind of programs and other programs instead of just gun control and stuff like that. I absolutely agree with that, but that's not going to solve anything. I mean, like, for example, in Oklahoma, they now passed a law that I'm assuming you have to have a license for it, but you can carry your gun around. There was a picture right here, at the very least, of a woman that was just shopping, and she can very much have her gun out and stuff like that. Now, I guess Oklahoma people feel very safe about it, but I'm just waiting till somebody in Oklahoma gets shut up like they did in Connecticut. And I would not feel safe living in Oklahoma. Now, I feel that everybody who has a license, who knows how to use a gun, stuff like that, fine, have a gun. But really, you shouldn't be allowed to just carry it willy-nilly. Guns kill, and there's a reason that World War I happened, and there's a reason that World War II happened, and there's a reason that 9/11 happened, and there's a reason that we're in Iraq right now, and Afghanistan. I can't even pronounce the country, but I think you guys know where I'm going with that. And I've mentioned it in my gun vlog before, and obviously guns are a necessary thing in our lives, but they're mainly used for killing, and I don't think they're necessary. Obviously they're needed, like I said, but there should be, I guess, more regulations for it. There was another vlogger, Matt Lundy. I've tagged him like plenty of times. He was even telling a story in his vlog, which I've annotated right here, that he was in high school in a math class where one of the students who didn't like him very much brought a BB gun, which probably wouldn't have killed him even if he was shot at, but the particular student didn't like him. And, you know, this particular student was kind of going like this, stopped at Matt, and then kept going. And Matt was kind of terrified and not very comfortable with that situation. And somehow the BB gun got through into the school without anybody detecting it. And, you know, I'm just very glad that in my high school, at the very least, my high school was a gang school. And there were definitely some violent people. And I remember one time that I couldn't even go through a hallway because I needed to get to my drafting teacher at the very end of school, who left right away because it was his last year of retirement, so he really didn't care about helping his students. And I couldn't get through because some kid got his nose knocked off, literally knocked off. I'm not even kidding, his nose was off. And the only way I stayed safe in that school was I had a friend who was in juvie like constantly, and she was a pretty tough cookie. And yes, I was being defended by a girl, so no sexist comments. The world is filled with violence, and I'm scared shitless for my sister who lives in Chicago, and Chicago is obviously not the safest city either. And I have a friend who is a teacher in Chicago, and he told me that in his school, the school regulations for security are there's only 2 doors that are unlocked during the day, and all windows can only be opened up to 6 inches, which means nobody can crawl in or out of them. And I mean, that's all good and dandy, but a gun could still slip in somehow. I'm just wondering how this happened. And then with the Connecticut shooting, the brother of the brother who actually did the shooting was somehow accused of doing the shooting because the shooter actually had the identification of the brother, who was not even in contact with the shooter since 2010, according to the brother, who was actually at work. You know, he was getting called and stuff like that, and he was going to get arrested and stuff like that. And, you know, the media was reporting that he was the bad guy and stuff like that, and he was actually at work, and he couldn't stop his brother from getting shot at and stuff like that. And he even said that his brother was having mental problems and stuff like that. And by the way, I cannot blame the shooter for what he did. Obviously his actions he can be blamed for, but nobody can just snap like that.
Tragedy comes on the heels of that other searing mass shooting 72 hours ago in the mall filled with holiday shoppers outside Portland. This singular tragedy in Newtown joining the ranks of the other dark days, Columbine, Tucson, Aurora. And ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas now is telling us what the experts say they see when they look at the men behind these massacres.
The Virginia Tech massacre, 32 dead. A shooting spree in Tucson, Arizona, 6 dead. 12 killed at a Colorado movie theater. Mass murder conducted by lone gunmen. But who are these men, and what motivates them?
We're talking about attacks that are carried out largely by people who are not necessarily psychopathic, not sociopathic, but folks who are relatively normal, but at a point of absolute desperation.
According to one estimate, this year alone there have been 15 mass shootings with at least 84 people killed before today. In the 61 mass murders carried out since 1982, all but one of the 43 shooters were male. Most were white, and the average age of the primary shooter was 35. Nearly half of the mass murders have involved school or workplace shootings. But in recent years, shopping malls, restaurants, and houses of worship have also come under fire.
Well, mass shooters tend to look for soft targets because they're easy. They want to be able to walk into a situation where people are not armed. They have no idea what's about to happen to them, and you can get the jump on them.
In many cases, the shooter targets specific people for specific reasons.
Sometimes they want fame. Sometimes they want notoriety. Sometimes they see this as a way to solve a problem or to get back at someone, some form of revenge.
And often, as we saw at Virginia Tech, Tucson, and Colorado, the shooters have serious mental health issues.
Usually the attackers will tell other people beforehand what they're thinking about and planning to do.
They often exhibit warning signs. Some of the indicators are blatant. Other signs are more subtle and only become clear in hindsight. Diane, there are an estimated 200 million plus guns already in circulation in the U.S. The fact is, disturbed people are going to get them. One source predicted tonight we're going to see the sad situation unfold again. It may be days, it may be weeks or months, but he said it will happen again.
Nobody can just snap like that. Something has to build up, and something has to trigger those kind of actions. He could have easily gone to a high school and killed off, teenagers instead of elementary school students. He could have easily be the one who did the Dark Knight is Rising shooting in Colorado. I mean, obviously he was in Connecticut, but he could have easily been the guy in Colorado. He could have easily been the guy in Columbine. Obviously he wasn't, but he could have been. He could have easily been the guy in Virginia Tech, but obviously he wasn't. He was in Connecticut. So really, any of these 4 situations or 5 situations, something triggered these people. And maybe he wasn't loved enough. Maybe nobody gave 2 shits about him. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't have a therapy session or any therapy sessions whatsoever. But really, I'm just concerned because if somebody can get into an elementary school just like that and then brrr, security anywhere is just concerning. And I'm sure that, my sister's school in Chicago is safe because I haven't heard anything bad about it. But it's still very concerning because, you think one place is safe because obviously nobody in the Connecticut school thought that their children were going to be at risk the next day. But guess what happened? Bang, 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 bang. And apparently I read another article, all of them were shot at least 3 times. So I'm just wondering what the hell happened then. And then at the very least at my high school, there are police stations inside it. There was 2. So I'm wondering why there aren't any security guards in the school in the first place, or video cameras, or nobody watching in the office for suspicious activity. I mean, he was 24 years old, and obviously would probably look like he doesn't belong in the school. So why didn't the teachers or the school officials know that he didn't belong or something? I mean, he's obviously wouldn't be an elementary school student because he's not a kindergartner. He would be 24 like me. I mean, look at me. I mean, you can see that I'm not crazy, but I could easily have matched that guy's profile. It's ridiculous. Okay, but my main point is, if for some reason, I mean, obviously you're not going to admit it publicly, but if you guys somehow feel depressed or you want to kill somebody or something like that, please, please, please talk to me, because I went into the psychology field for a reason, and once I get my shit together and get a job, I'm going to be your next therapist. Obviously, I can't be any of your therapists because it's biased, and obviously I don't know any of you personally except a couple of you. But I really want to be out there for people. If this guy had help, I'm not saying that the situation wouldn't have happened, but it could have easily been prevented. Seriously. What the hell? Thanks for listening, guys, but it's just brings a tear to my eye that this kind of thing happened. These kids had full lives ahead of them. Mother probably had another good 50 years ahead of her. And what do? What happens? Thanks, guys. Leave your opinions and stuff like that. If somehow you were in Connecticut and you were affected by this, please let me know. If you weren't in Connecticut but it affected you somehow, please let me know as well. Okay? Bye.